In Europa Universalis V, you don't just witness history. You seize its reign and steer it wherever you choose. Today, we'll explore 3 of the most pivotal starting situations that can reshape the destiny of an entire continent. Hello everyone, my name is Clem, and today we'll talk about the dynastic clash of the Hundred Years' War. Then, the relentless expansion in the rise of the Turks. And finally, the Italian conflict of the Guelphs and Ghibellines. The Hundred Years' War wasn't a single war. It was a chain of conflicts stretching from 1337 to 1453. All fought over one burning question: who truly owns the French crown? To understand it, we have to go back to 1066, when William the Conqueror became King of England. But as Duke of Normandy and later Duke of Aquitaine, English kings remained vassals to the French crown. It planted centuries of rivalry between the Plantagenets and the Capetians. Then came the early 14th century. King Philip IV of France, known as Philippe le Bel, died. His succession seemed secure, with 3 sons. But tragedy followed. His heir, Louis X, died after just 4 years on the throne. His son, Jean Ier, lived only 4 days. This left Louis's daughter, Jeanne de Navarre, as the direct heir. But a woman inheriting France? The nobility feared foreign influence. They decided instead on Philip V, Louis's brother. A choice driven more by geopolitics than law. And it set the precedent. Philip also died without a heir. Then, Charles IV did the same. In 1328, the French elites faced a dilemma. The last direct line was Isabelle, daughter of Philippe le Bel, but her son was no one else than Edward III, King of England. The idea of being ruled by an English monarch was unthinkable for the French nobility. So, they instead crowned Philippe de Valois, nephew of Philippe le Bel. Yet, dynastic claims were only half the story. The region of Guyenne, the rich part of Aquitaine, remained under English control. As Duke of Guyenne, Edward III technically owed homage to the French king. But disputes over exact territories started with the ambition of Philip to recover the Guyenne. Things escalated in 1337. Philip VI supported David Bruce's claim to the throne of Scotland. Meanwhile, Robert d'Artois, exiled at Edward's court, stirred up Edward's ambition. You can add the heavy French taxes and Edward's growing sway in Flanders, and soon the Flemish were backing Edward's claim to the French crown, starting one of the longest conflicts in European history. In Europa Universalis V, you're thrown into the conflict as soon as the game begins. As England, your first challenge is clear: secure the French vassals' loyalty. And as France, you must hold your fractured realm together. Once either kingdom feels strong enough, the conflict escalates into open war, separated in phases, mirroring history. France's objective is simple: eliminate any independent English presence on the continent. For England, the stakes are even higher. If you control at least 15% of the French territories, plus the French capital, you can claim the entire French crown. Despite appearing weaker on paper at the start, England has the potential to emerge from this conflict as the single most powerful nation in Europe. In Europa Universalis V, the Ottomans began as an ambitious but modest principality on the edge of Europe and Asia. It's 1337. You control Bursa, your capital, since 1326. You're surrounded by rival beyliks in Anatolia and by a decaying Byzantine Empire on the west. You've got military momentum, a young dynasty, and a strategic location. But you have no territory in Europe, no navy, no secure future. The empire you're meant to build still hangs in the balance. The Ottoman states emerged around 1299. Under Osman I, a local ruler in South. He was just one among many Turkish warlords in Anatolia after the collapse of the Seljuks. At the time, earlier historians argued that Osman led the religious war of expansion, but more recent researches show something else. not ideology, but pragmatism. The early Ottomans did not hesitate to ally both Christians and Muslims. They integrated local population and seized opportunity wherever it appeared. Osman's son, Orhan, continued this expansion. He took Bursa in 1326, turning it into the dynasty's first true capital. It was not only a symbolic victory, but also an economic one. Bursa was rich in trade, silk, and taxes. Unlike other beyliks, the Ottomans didn't just raid, they governed. They hired bureaucrats, many of them Greeks or Christian. They secured marriages to powerful neighbors. Thus, their flexibility set them apart. By 1337, they had established a stable base in Anatolia, but remained vulnerable. To the east, stronger Turkish rivals, like the Karamanids. To the west, a still-standing Byzantine Empire, weakened but not yet defeated. The starting situation centers on the rise of Ottomans, but that doesn't mean other beyliks can take their places. Each of them can triumph and inherit all the content and flavor of the Ottomans for the rest of the campaign. The rise of Turk's situation is designed as a dynamic, ever-shifting environment of politics, diplomacy, and war across Anatolia. The most successful beyliks will gain access to exclusive actions and reforms, but all can benefit from the wider dynamics of this unfolding power struggle. From establishing vassal state to forging alliances, even with the Byzantine Empire, players will have to make key strategic choices to secure dominance for their chosen beylik. Once you've built a solid power base in Anatolia, you'll be able to cross the straits into Europe, beginning your own path toward the empire that will one day be feared across the continent. The Guelphs and Ghibellines. For most of you, those names mean nothing. But for the Italians in the late medieval era, it meant everything. In Europa Universalis V, Italy begins as one of the most fragmented regions on the map. Dozens of states share this territory, each with their own ambitions, their own enemies, and their own friends. But behind this political chaos lies a deeper divide. Every ruler, every city, every family must choose a side, the Pope or the Emperor. This is the legacy of the Guelphs and Ghibellines, a power struggle that shaped generation and still shapes your decisions at the start of the game. The conflict began in the 12th century, born from a rivalry between imperial power and papal authority. Two factions emerged in the middle of this opposition. The Guelphs aligned with the papacy, and the Ghibellines aligned with the Holy Roman Emperor. The names originate from German dynastic houses. Guelphs comes from the Wolf family, allies of the Pope, and Ghibellines come from Weiblingen Castle, home of supporters of the Hohenstaufen emperors. By the 13th century, the struggle had spread into every corner of northern and central Italy. Even after choosing a side, there was always the threat of civil war. In Florence, Bologna, Siena, even within families, loyalties split. Governments rose and fell in rapid succession. The mercenaries, the famous condottieri, thrived in this environment, selling their loyalty to the highest bidder. Foreign powers saw opportunity and intervened frequently. The empire invaded Italy while the Pope used all his power to maintain his influence. Italian politics became a chessboard of foreign interference, personal vendetta, and civic coup. By 1337, both the papacy and the empire are weakened, but the division they created still dominates Italian life. In Italy at this time, no cities was truly stable, no allegiance was guaranteed. In Europa Universalis V, this opposition begins only 2 months after the start of the game, with the situation named, you guessed it, the Guelphs and Ghibellines. The conflict seems pretty simple in appearance. Northern Italy is under the empire's influence, while central Italy is under papal influence, with the support from Naples. To help your side to win, you need to be rich. Not necessarily crazy rich, but richer than the opposite side. Italy being Italy, peace, development and trade are not the only way to reach this objective. You can also wage war and force other cities to join your faction. Gaining enough influence allows for 3 issues for this situation. If the Ghibellines win, all Italian countries except for Naples, Sicily and the Papal State will join the Holy Roman Empire. While if the Guelphs wins, all countries with a capital in the Italy region will be forced to leave the HRE. But if neither side can achieve 100% progress before 1437, whoever is in the Guelphs will either stay out or leave the HRE, and whoever is in the Ghibellines will stay within the HRE. This situation is one of the first conflicts in Italy during the game, and foreshadows another important event, the Italian Wars. 3 regions, 3 stories. In 1337, none of the outcomes are guaranteed. You won't be following a script. You will be making the calls. Don't forget to subscribe and let us know in the comments if you liked this video and if you want more of them.